How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Deadlock Podcast. This is your UFC 279 Prediction Strike check-in. We're going to be going over UFC 279 and talking about it not only from a betting or gambling perspective. We're going to be breaking down this thing if you would like to invest in these fighters long-term from a prediction strike standpoint. My buddy, my man, my co-host, as always, Manpreet, Lock of the Night. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. It always feels like a while whenever we do these prediction strikes videos because we don't do them as often as we used to. But I'm always happy to break down a full pay-per-view card as well, right? It might not have the zest of UFC 280, but there are still some very fun matchups on this card to break down, and some good fighters to invest in for the long-term and even short-term returns, which is what our goal is for this specific podcast. So you want to let them know what the promo code here is for people that want to set up the prediction strike. Let them know, Clint.
Absolutely. So as you guys know, the show is sponsored by Prediction Strike. And if you use promo code LOCK when you sign up, you will get a free fighter stock to go with that deposit of $20 or more. Like my guy Locke said, we are looking for long-term investments here. This is a legitimate sports stock market. And when I say sports, obviously Locke and I, we are heavy in on the MMA, the fighter side of things, but they have everything, man. They do MLB, baseball, football. It's NFL season, baby. So we've got all kinds of stuff coming up here. They've got players from every single sport. You guys can find them here and invest in them long-term as they rise and fall throughout the season and throughout their fights. So make sure you head on over to predictionstrike.com. It's a super cool new tool, and especially for us for MMA, we spot these kids coming off the regional scene and go, that guy's going to fight for a title one day. This is the platform for that. You don't have to bet them, single shots every single time they fight. Just plug your investment by shares in that fighter. Sit back, relax, watch their career, and in a year or two, maybe you got a nice profit you can cash out on.
There is actually another promotion that they're running now, Clint, considering that this is the first week that the NFL is back in play. They are doing a promotion now. Even if you are a longtime user of Prediction Strike, if you for every $25 that you fill up on your wallet, you get a free stock on any fighter or any player as well. And you can do that all the way up to $5,000. If I'm not mistaken, you got to do the math here for me, Clint, but I think it's 100 or 1,000. I think it's 100 free stocks that you're able to get with that math. My math is so off right now, but I'm trying to, let me just do the quick math for you guys right here. 5,000 divided by 25, 200 stocks. You can get 200 free stocks for every $25 that you deposit into your wallet on Prediction Strike. So make sure you guys take full advantage of that as well. That is an NFL week 1 special that they're doing, but that doesn't mean you strictly can get free NFL player stocks, but you can also get it for MLB, MMA, and I believe basketball as well. But Clint, I see you have an NFL player pulled up here. I know you are an NFL head. Does this mean that you are willing to share an NFL stock that you want to buy in on going into the NFL season?
Honestly, Locke, we've done this thing from a fighter perspective so much, I haven't even bothered to look at the other sports. And this is my guy, Dawson Knox. I think he's going to score a touchdown tonight in the season opener. I've actually got a bet on that prop myself. Got a nice odds boost over at Superbook Sports for that one. Plus 280. It's like plus 170 market wide, but anybody that tailed me on my odds boost yesterday got like a full $1 extra value on this bad boy. I don't know how the stocks move in NFL, Lock. So I was just kind of bringing that up to show the people that there's more than just fighters. And I was also curious for myself how these line moves kind of worked for these guys. I'm curious if it's game to game or if it's something that you got to wait season to season. That's a story for a different day. I'm going to have to research.
I'll quickly fill that for you. I'll quickly answer that question for you. Fantasy points is based on fantasy points. So based on how many fantasy points they get each game, their stock goes up or down. So there you guys go.
And Corey, apologies. We're talking about football just to demonstrate that there's more to Prediction Strike. You are correct, though. Let's get over to the MMA because we do have UFC 276 to go ahead and break down. Of course, our first fight of the evening, Darian Weeks taking on Johan Lainesse. Smash the like button. Let's go.
Yes, do that. Let's do
Man,
that.
look, I've talked this card forward and backwards. Of course, the brain trust, all of us guys that go on each other's shows and stuff like that. I've had a couple DM channels going. This is a very contested fight. We've got Darian Weeks and Johan Lainesse both looking for their first UFC win. Darian Weeks is just a cheap, nice little 59 cents here on Prediction Strike. His opponent, Johan Lainesse, a similar 64 cents. So both guys are buy low, cheap sale type of options. I kind of lean on the Darian Weeks side. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Johan Lainesse. However, Johan does have that fight-ending, skull-crushing power that you can expect him to bring to every single fight, but he only has about 4 minutes worth of gas because he's swinging for the fences with every single shot. From a prediction strike standpoint, I'm only investing in Darian Weeks here at these numbers. I think he's got more longevity. I think he's growing up in front of us. Even if he doesn't quite get the win over Johan Lainesse on Saturday, I think we will potentially see him back in the UFC in the future after he gets some more experience under his belt. But honestly, I think he can straight up win on Saturday. So of the two, he'd be the side that I'd be looking to invest in long term. What about yourself?
Yeah, I share the same sentiments as you, right? I really don't like putting too much stock in guys that are KO or bust. KO or bust, especially early in fights, right? If they're not able to carry that power later into fights, it gives an even bigger red flag to me in terms of the Lainesse side, right? We saw it on full display in his last fight against Gabe Green, where he wasn't able to get him out of there early and paid for it later in that fight. Darian Weeks, higher upside all around, in my opinion, right? Has a better grappling game, in my opinion. His striking is coming along, but I think he could remain competitive enough that he could stay away from the big power of Johan and then eventually get his grappling going, drag this to the ground, and really grind him out in that aspect and possibly finish him later in this fight. The fact that he's the cheaper fighter of the two here as well makes him almost the no-brainer prediction strike play, even on a short-term basis here, as I do think that we'll see his price go up a decent amount should he be able to get this win. So, yeah, short-term and long-term, I believe Darian Weeks is the side. Johan, he always has that nuclear power. It's obviously always on the table, but I just can't get behind him this weekend. I'm going to go with Darian Weeks.
Agreed. Plus, Team Canada sucks right now. So,
hey, I hate to say it. But I bet against him in the past couple of outings as well, right? Had to fade Alex Morgan, had to fade Charles Jourdain. We're doing it again this weekend as well with another fight later on this card. But
props on fading Charles Jourdain. That was a beautiful spot that you landed last time out. I'm Team Canada. I'm an honorary Canadian, so I don't say that with any spite in my heart.
I might get my citizenship revoked for all the guys that I'm betting against. Hey, I'm cashing at the end of the day, and that's what matters. So
that's what matters.
Whether they're from China, whether they're from Antarctica, I don't care where you're from. Whether you can make me money or not doesn't matter on your nationality. So
you'll be able to afford a house on the beach in California after they kick you out of Canada.
Probably. They'll welcome me with open arms as well, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Next fight up, everybody. We've got debuting Melissa Martinez taking on Elise Reed. We've got Martinez coming in at the nearly classic dollar, the 95-cent spot. We usually see fighters come in kind of around that range when they get started in the UFC if there's no big read to be had on them. Speaking of reads, Elise Reed, 67 cents. Looking for another UFC win. And yes, I say another because she did get one. This is, it's another one kind of like the last fight, Lock, where to be completely honest, I'm one of the few people that thinks Elise Reed has some merit. I actually don't think she's as bad as the internet trashes her to be. I think she's got better striking than people give her credit for. The ground game is an egregious problem, and I don't think she has a whole long shelf life in the UFC because the better fighters are going to be able to take her down and grind on her. It's not going to be good for her unless she patches that hole up extremely quickly. However, her UFC debuting opponent here, Martinez, she does not tend to grapple. She's a striker. She's a world champion kickboxer in the time she's taken off since the last time we saw her compete in MMA. So she's not going to be looking to expose that ground weakness, or at least you wouldn't think so based on the tape. I do think she's probably the investable side here, if I'm being honest. I think Elise Reed, here's my problem, Locke. Here's my problem. We haven't seen her for 3 years. At the age of 22, we see massive jumps in skill from these young fighters. So I have a hard time looking back at that last tape I watched from her and expect that fighter to step in the cage on Saturday. If both of the tapes I saw from Elise Reed and Melissa Martinez were 2 weeks ago, I think Elise Reed wins this fight. I have no problem taking the underdog if exactly what I saw on tape last time is what we're getting on Saturday. But that's not what we're getting on Saturday. with 3 years off for her to work on her game, I kind of expect Melissa Martinez to show some new wrinkles, and I wouldn't be shocked if she exposes that gaping ground game hole that Elise Reed has, because it's just too easy to put her on her back. She has no interest in stuffing takedowns. She strikes, she throws elbows, and then ends up on her back and has to work her way back up. I think long-term investment-wise, you got to look at the Melissa Martinez side. Maybe a flyer on Elise Reed, but again, I'm not sure she's long-term investable at all.
Yeah, this is a fight. I'd be surprised if either woman has to worry about a grapple-heavy approach, right? Like, if they want to take the easy way out, maybe they just drilled wrestling, the entire 3 months or 4 months that they were preparing for this matchup, and just to look to try to exploit that weakness of their opponent. But I think both of them are much more comfortable in the striking scenario here. Both girls have a different style of striking, even though that they're both strikers, right? Melissa Martinez has more of a kickboxing background compared to Elise Reed with more of a taekwondo background. So it'll be interesting to see which one is going to be able to get the upper hand on the other by implementing their style a little bit more effectively. Now, Melissa Martinez, like you said, she's been out of the cage for about 3 years, right? But at 22 years old, now 25, I don't think that's going to be too bad of a thing for her. But considering the fact that she's not just sitting around collecting dust, like, she was actually competing at a high level on the world kickboxing stage representing Mexico, and actually achieved the gold medal back in 2021. So she's been busy. She's been doing work. How much she's been working on her grappling, I don't know. And I'm sure you can agree with this as well. I don't know if she actually even won that last fight against Desiree Yanez. That was a very close one. And even if you look at the comment section of that YouTube video, people are just screaming out robbery left, right, and center.
I thought it went the wrong way too.
I thought it went the wrong way as well. I would agree on that. But the skills that we see from her on the feet are, you can't argue against those. She's very fast. She cuts angles very well. She's never stationary either. She's always moving. She's always on the balls of her toes and or the balls of her feet, and she's moving, looking for angles to blitz forward and land.
She's female Davy Grant lock is what she is.
Yes, I could see that, but with a little bit more technical polish, in my opinion, right? Like, there is a bit of a method to her madness compared to Davy Grant, who's just madness, right?
The way she dips off and wings hooks, though, I was like, holy shit, my boy Davy has a daughter out there.
A Mexican daughter, albeit.
Exactly. But he could have traveled.
Yeah, he could have traveled. He could have traveled for sure. But she's a fun fighter, man. This was actually a fun fight to research for sure. Now, the reason I'm not going to be taking the chalk on Melissa Martinez from a betting perspective is, let's see what she looks like against somebody with solid striking of their own, right? And I'm of the same belief that you are, that Elise Reed just gets a little bit too much flack from the internet because she lost via finish to Sijara Eubanks. And Sijara Eubanks had never gotten a finish in the UFC to that point. And if I'm not mistaken, probably ever to that point. But there was such a gap in difference in terms of the grappling that, of course, Sijara was going to be able to exploit that. So I think she gets too much flack for that. We saw her obviously bounce back with that big win over Corey McKenna. I think largely this is going to be a striking matchup. I do lean the Melissa Martinez side a little bit more. I'm not sure about her longevity, though, in regards to she's eventually going to fight a grappler. So unless we see those grappling deficiencies shored up, I'm not sure how long-term we can truly invest on the Melissa Martinez side. For this weekend, sure. I think that she'll probably get her hand raised in the spot. But for me, this is more of a sit back and watch type of matchup for even the Elise Reed side to see how she deals with somebody with this type of striking approach. So in terms of a prediction, we'll go with the Melissa Martinez side. But in terms of investing, I think I'm going to stay off of both women, honestly, for this weekend. Just sit back and watch for now.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more on that. But how funny will it be if Elise Reed comes out and turns into a wrestler and wins a decision here?
Could you imagine? Jeez. That'd be crazy.
That'd be fun times. All right, everybody. We're getting some more people rolling into the show. Smash the like button here for us. Make sure you go check out Prediction Strike. Next up, we have got Chad Anheliger taking on my guy, Alatang Heili. You guys know I've got a soft spot for Fight Ready. They turn men into monsters over there, and Heili is a guy who's been training there for a very long time. I've got a tough read on this fight here, Locke, if I'm being honest. It's another spot where if Alatang Heili gets back to his wrestling game, I kind of think he wins this fight via decision. If he doesn't get back to that wrestling game and he doesn't hold Chad Anheliger down for 2 rounds, he probably loses a volume-based kickboxing match. I think it's pretty simple. Chad's faster. He's got more output. He's got more volume, but he's older. And honestly, I think he's been kind of overperforming a little bit. I'm not sure he's a guy that I want to invest in long-term. He's $1.29 right now. He pulled off some big upsets. He's gotten a couple wins. Maybe he wins again on Saturday if Alatang Heili comes out with a bad game plan and doesn't force him to the mat. But beyond that, I'm just not sure how valuable he is long term here in the UFC. Now, Heili, $1.33 at this point. Kind of the reverse on that. I think he's got more long-term value. He would be somebody out of these two anyway that I'd be more interested in investing in long-term from a prediction strike standpoint. But again, he has shown some poor fight IQ. He has shown a limited ceiling for a guy that's got the wrestling chops that he does. This is probably another pass for me from a betting perspective, favorite or pass from a prediction strike standpoint. I don't know that I want either of these guys.
Honestly, like we talked about a little bit earlier when we were talking about the other Canadian on the card. I unfortunately got to fade the Canadian this time around with Alatang Heili. I like his game, man. The issue that I've heard from his camp and all that is he just enjoys striking so much. Like that's the reason he's not going to his wrestling is like sure it's a little bit taxing, it's a little bit tiring to go out there and implement a grapple game plan, but he just has so much fun striking and he just wants to get a knockout and try to
I'd
get
like
these
to strike
guys out
if
of there.
in my hands too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think the key for him in this matchup is going to be mixing up everything, right? When you have a big, heavy striker like Chad who puts solid pressure on his opponents, walks them down, throws big strikes, you got to give him more things to think about and, changing levels, shooting takedowns. And even if he doesn't hold him down for 2 rounds here, I think just giving him things to think about and keeping him on his toes will allow him to open up the rest of his striking game here. So, yes, I am taking the Heili side here. I do actually have a bet on his money line as well, as I do think he is the better overall fighter here. Like we're talking about a Chad Anheliger who started off his career 2-5 and then since then has gone 10-0, which is absolutely crazy. But I know as good as anybody, even as much as my guy Cody Saftik over there who follows the Canadian regional scene as much as I do, the level of competition that he's fighting on the regional scene, it might be one of the best that Canada has, but it's still not of the level of like even the middle tier of what some of the guys in the US are able to produce, or even China, for Heili Yalatang's sake. So I think it will be tough for Chad to land those big bombs, to put that pressure on Heili here, especially with having the takedowns in the back of his head, which I know are going to come early and often, right? Again, the in my opinion, it wouldn't be so much to tax yourself trying to hold Chad down. It's more so just giving Chad more to think about so that you can open up the rest of your game. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing here from a Heili Yalatang. So I like him, and the fact that he's only 4 cents more expensive than Chad in this spot, I think that this is an investable short-term spot where you can just bet on him for this weekend, even through prediction strike. Once you get his hand raised, then you can buy out on him, because we need to see if he actually goes in there and implements even a little bit of a grappling game before we can truly trust him to go out there and be a smart MMA fighter, right? You touched on his questionable fight IQ in certain spots, and I agree with that. But I think he still has the chops to go out there and showcase that he has his wrestling in his back pocket when he needs it, and that should allow him to flow into the rest of his game. Last thing I'll say about this, I believe the kid made the national wrestling team at 15 years old, which is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
Especially considering the fact that, he hit 7 takedowns in his first 2 UFC fights and has only shot for 1 in his next 3 fights that he had. So hopefully he goes back to it a little bit here. Not expecting a Khabib-like performance, but just give Chad something to think about, and that should let your hands flow a little bit easier and with more success. So give me the Chinese fighter here, and I apologize, Canada, once again, especially on the day our queen unfortunately passes away. RIP to the queen, but Heili Yalatang is getting it done.
All right.
Did you know that, Clint? Did you know the queen passed away today?
I did see that, Locke. I did see that. And I'll be honest with you, I am your classic
American, don't give a fuck about Canada or Britain.
Kind of, yeah. Like, I hate to say that. My wife is all torn up, though. Let me tell you. Like,
yeah,
my wife is a mess over the queen. She is distraught that she passed, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like she just didn't affect me. Like she was like, Betty White. She's this old lady that has always been old my entire life, and they don't have any ruling stake in the United States, so I've had no attachment to her. And besides the South Park episode where they do the Canada gag on like as is tradition, I don't know anything. I didn't follow the royal family. I didn't do any of the TV shows. Like, I'm sorry, I just have no attachment to the queen, so I do apologize, but
no,
rest honestly, in peace, mourn for the family. I feel bad for the people that do care. it's not something that affects my day to day. So I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, back to fights. Like
I felt as the resident Canadian, I had to bring light to it. And again, I don't really care too much either, honestly. Like, never really done much for me. I know my wife, just like yours, is likely going to be torn up when she hears this news
my
as
wife
well.
is texting me right now. Don't be rude. Like,
I love it.
Shut up. Like, she sent me like angry the cursing faces emojis. And then she
Shout
goes,
out,
is Locke
this is
sad?
diehard there. I love it. Did she ask if I'm sad?
She asked if you're sad. Locke, okay, so anybody watching the show, Locke and I are like internet best friends at this point,
yeah.
if you haven't figured that out. My wife legitimately loves Manpreet. Like, every time I get how was Manpreet? Did he stay to talk with you after the show? Is he doing, how's his wife? Like, I get all of those questions. She loves you and she cares about your feelings. So no, she is like legitimately asking if you're okay after the queen is passed.
I'm sure my wife is torn up, but it's whatever to me, honestly. I don't really give a shit. It's I'm sure once I watch The Crown, which I eventually will, I might have a little bit of a sentiment towards it, but it's whatever. It doesn't mean anything to me. As my guy Noel Murphy is saying here, I'm trudging on a little bit too much about it, but let's move on. I apologize for bringing it up.
Back to the fights. All right. So taking on, let's see, we've got Norma Dumont here, and she's taking on Danielle Wolf. Danielle Wolf is a flat $1, making her real UFC debut here. Norma Dumont is $1.83. You gotta think Norma Dumont is the only move from a prediction strike standpoint, right? Like, Danielle Wolf is 40 years old. She's a bad boxer who we got sold was this incredible world-class boxer who really couldn't cut it as a boxer. And now she's transitioning extremely late in life over to the UFC. Don't get me wrong. This division is thin, so she probably will get, a couple of wins over in the UFC here at this division. But Norma Dumont should, and I emphasize should, beat this girl. The problem for me with Norma Dumont, everybody, is that she doesn't make good decisions. She never follows the right game plan. She is completely lackadaisical, spends 10 minutes doing nothing, and then in the final 5 minutes goes, oh, fuck, this fight is close. I need to do something. And then she fights in the third round. Like, I don't know what to make of Norma Dumont, and I can't back her from a money line standpoint if we're talking betting, because how the hell do you trust her to even get the win, much less follow the appropriate game plan? She has yet to show us that she's capable of doing that in the UFC so far. I think she can hurt this girl on the feet. I think if she takes her down, it's a massive skill gap. White belt to brown belt. She should tap this girl in about 5 seconds, but she only shoots 1 takedown per 15 minutes, Lockett. It drives me nuts that she is a better grappler than she is striker, and she refuses to use that element of her game in the UFC. So I have no faith that Norma's going to follow through and do anything in this fight the way that she's supposed to. So for prediction strike, yes, I'll say Norma Dumont is the investable side here because she'll probably have more longevity in the UFC after this fight. However, if you want to buy in low on Wolf, if you think she pulls the upset, you're going to get a nice fat payday. That number's going to jump if she beats Norma Dumont. And then, like I said, it's a weak weight class. If she does win 1 or 2 more times, you might get some extra value on that number in her next couple fights, depending on the matchup. So if you think the dog is live, go ahead, invest in the dog, and you can always hop off when their next fight is announced. But I don't know. For me, it's Norma Dumont or pass. And again, for prediction strike, I really don't want either of these women.
Honestly, I largely agree with you for sure. Like, I'm not sure how you can bet Norma Dumont at -400 and be comfortable thinking that she's actually going to go out there and do what she actually needs to do. But like, I think the way to approach it is if you want to back Norma Dumont and try to make some money off her, like my guy Thomas Kane is saying in the chat, probably go for a prop of some sort. He's saying Dumont round 1. I'm thinking maybe Dumont via submission, because who knows when she'll actually wake up and actually look to go for it. But in my opinion, maybe investing on a short term through prediction strike this weekend is the better way to go, rather than laying the -400 on her on a money line perspective. And then from the betting perspective, I think taking a little bit of a shot on Danielle Wolf at +330 or something crazy is not that bad. Like, even if it's a half unit shot here, right? In women's MMA, size and strength matters much more than it does in men's MMA, in my opinion, right? We've seen it play out time and time again, where the bigger fighter is able to control where this fight goes, and then they're able to exploit what their advantage is, right? So in this fight per se, Danielle Wolf, 4-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. She is a mammoth of a woman as well.
She's big.
I think it's going to be hard for Norma to drag this fight to the ground if she wants to, right? You got to believe that Danielle has been drilling time and time again that that takedown defense and trying to dig those underhooks and keeping this fight upright. And if she keeps this fight upright, she's technically the better striker, right? Or at least on paper should be the better striker.
Locke, please do not talk me into Danielle Wolf, please.
Hey. I've already talked myself into Danielle Wolf here, Clint. A little bit of an exclusive for Prediction Strike viewers here. I have a 0.75 unit play on Danielle Wolf at plus 330. I fucking did it. But here's the caveat. I have a 1 unit play as well on the under 2.5 at plus 175 because I'm absolutely aware that Dumont, if she takes this fight to the ground, will likely be able to get a submission real quick. So either Dumont gets a finish and I am up 1 unit on this fight, or Danielle Wolf gets a finish. I'm up like plus 4 units or something on the fight. Or even if Danielle wins a decision, I'm up, 1.5 units or so. The only thing that would probably fuck me here is if Norma Dumont wins a decision, which is on the table as well, which is why I've only kept my exposure about 1.75 units for this fight. But minus 400 Norma Dumont is absolutely egregious in my opinion. The better way to go about it would be either through Prediction Strike or finding a prop, in my opinion. But man,
Danielle Wolf by knockout is 8-1, Locke. Oh.
Here's my thing with that, though. That my only concern is in boxing, she didn't even record one knockout. She has zero
so the decision prop is 6-1.
There's that too. But this is another thing, right? So maybe the smaller gloves allow her power to translate a little bit more, right? Or maybe her technical advantage over Norma Dumont, who might be a little bit more wild and reckless on the feet, will allow Danielle to find that KO opportunity that's required. But like we saw her, I don't want to say struggle against Tanisha Tennant on the Contender Series, but Tennant didn't really give her much opportunity in terms of landing the big strikes. But I think that Norma will be a little bit less technically sound in terms of her defensive abilities than what Tanisha Tennant shown on the Contender Series against Danielle Wolf. So big question marks here. I would rather try to seek the value on Danielle Wolf or the under or both if you guys want to take a shot on both.
But I'm tempted on the under myself.
Yeah, from a prediction to strike perspective, though, I think it would be Norma Dumont short term cash out right after she wins. Otherwise, just take Danielle Wolf money line on the betting side of things. You're right. She has no longevity in terms of her prediction strike stonk, right? Like she might be able to win this weekend and it might, it will go up a decent amount after beating Norma Dumont, but she's fighting killers right after that. If she's, going up to fighting Amanda Nunes or anybody else that's hanging around up at 145 pounds. So short-term investment on Norma Dumont on Prediction Strike, but I think that this fight is much closer than minus 400 indicates, especially considering the lack of fight IQ that we see from Norma Dumont on a fight-to-fight basis. You nailed it. That Macy Chiasson fight, she didn't wake up until that last round. How can you trust somebody at minus 400 who doesn't make sound decisions, after 10 minutes of fighting? Also, the Aspen Ladd fight, good win from her, but Aspen Ladd did nothing. She did absolutely nothing in that fight. Ashley Evans Smith, meh. Felicia Spencer, doesn't have the greatest striking, and Norma Dumont was able to exploit that. So big question marks on Norma Dumont here. I'm not trusting her at minus 400. I'd rather play the submission prop. But in this case, like I said, under 2.5 is the way that I'd go with the majority of my money, but a little bit of a stab on the Danielle Wolf side of things here. So yeah, there you go. I look forward to seeing you having the Danielle Wolf ticket in your pocket next week.
I don't know if I'm going to get there, man, but I want to watch these two at face-offs. I really do. And I need to find me a Norma Dumont interview, because if nobody is bothered to ask her, what the fuck are you thinking? And are you going to take her down? Like, I need to know the answers to those questions. I need to hear where her mental state is at, because seriously, man, if she is not taking Wolf down, or if she's only taking her down once, yeah, we got a fight on our hands. And that's why I can't trust her at that price tag. So,
and again, it's another thing in terms of, can she get her down? Like, Danielle Wolf is a big woman. She is.
If she just learned to kickstand takedown defense, man, those long legs.
Yeah, exactly. And the one time Tanisha got her to the ground in that fight is because Wolf pulled guard, jumping for a guillotine. I'd be surprised if she looks to jump guillotine here against Norma Dumont.
She won the white belt nationals jumping gilly, man. That's her move.
Let's move on. Let's get to my guy.
Squeeze on her, that girl. All right. Jake Collier taking on my guy, Chris Barnett. $1.06 for Chris Barnett, $1.16 for Jake Collier. It's one of those weird spots where the minus 400 favorite is only 10 cents more expensive. Folks, like this is where Prediction Strike stands out. I know we said that with Romanov last time out because that didn't go well, but this is exactly where you get that extra line value, right? Like Jake Collier is a minus 400 favorite on any betting line out there right now. Here, he is only 10 cents more expensive than his opponent. This is where you can invest in this guy. Even if you're going to pump and dump for one fight, his numbers will bump up a little bit after he gets it done, especially if he gets a finish. The numbers will go even higher than that. So this is a Collier spot for me. I love Chris Barnett, man. I'm rooting for the guy. I want him to get a win. I don't have a bet in this fight specifically because I'm a fan of this man, and I know he's probably going to lose. So I'm going to be rooting for him with no money on the line. But for Prediction Strike, Jake Collier has proven he's the more well-rounded MMA fighter. He can hang with real, legitimate heavyweights in this weight class. He'll be around longer. I see his price going up, not the other way around. What about you?
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Jake Collier should absolutely win this fight, and I think he wins it by finish as well. I see my guy Sanson's Boulevard in here saying Collier inside the distance plus 110. Seems like a good enough spot, man. He should be able to ground Barnett, and I think he should be able to smash him from on top. But Clint, how the turntables, right? Taking a saying from my guy Michael Scott here, but how the turntables that everybody and their mother wanted to fade Jake Collier just a year ago, and now here he is as a minus 400 favorite against a able-bodied person inside the cage.
Well, everybody is coming off of him, should have beating Andrei Arlovsky. So, we all saw that the decision went the wrong way. He proved that he can beat a real battle-tested veteran of the heavyweight division, and I think that changed everybody's tune a little bit.
And mix that in with the smashing of Chase Sherman from earlier this year. I think people think that he has a higher ceiling now that he's double Jake Collier, right? But no, I like it. And again, you nailed it right off the top in this breakdown. This is where Prediction Strike comes clutch. You load up on Jake Collier here, considering that he's only 10 cents more expensive than Chris Barnett. That price is going to, give you a much better return than taking Jake Collier minus 400 on that money line. Maybe around the same as you'll get that plus 110 inside the distance. But just in case Chris Barnett somehow makes it to the judges' scorecards, at least you'll be able to still cash a ticket on Prediction Strike by taking the Jake Collier stock here. So give me some Jake, and I'll likely hold on to it, Clint. Like I might buy a solid amount of stocks, sell half of them after he gets that win, and then see how they match him up moving forward here. But he could find some more solid victories inside the cage even after this one this weekend.
That is the cool thing about this platform that I think people don't give enough credit to, man. It shares, folks. Like you can sell half of your stock and keep some of them. So if you get a nice profit, you got a return on investment, and then you want to save some for down the road and see if it keeps going up, you can do that. It's super flexible, super cool. I like that a lot.
Yes,
all right. Dennis Tiuliulin at a nice solid 48 cents. Taking on my guy Jamie Pickett at 84 cents. And I've been calling Jamie my guy like literally all week because I cashed one ticket on this man. I don't know why I've got it in my head that he's my guy, but he, for whatever reason, is. So I am a fan of Jamie. He's that consummate underdog. Everyone kind of underestimates him. Nobody thinks he's worth much. And I think he's got a style that poses people problems, man. He's a Neil Magny type where he'll just pin you against the fence and slow you down. He's been relatively durable. He hits relatively hard, but his IQ sucks. He's always in these super tight, close fights because he doesn't fight optimally against certain opponents. Now, his opponent, Dennis, this is the guy that Sean Strickland raves about. He'll go to war with him in practice at the gym every single day. The guy's got nice, sharp boxing, heavy hands. He's a Russian monster. This is the type of guy that I think can actually give Jamie Pickett some problems. Now, if Jamie survives and doesn't get knocked out or hurt, we've seen him react poorly when he gets hit sometimes, and that kind of worries me a little bit. But this is the kind of guy that I do think has a gas tank issue potentially. He can pin him up against the fence, force him to grapple, slow him down, make those arms heavy, fill him up with blood. And then I think that Jamie Pickett can maybe win a decision. But I do think that's his only path to victory. And even in a decision, I think it will be close. And it's going to come down to the judges. And if Dennis caught off a couple of big power shots, he might steal that decision away anyway. I think Dennis has more ways to win this fight. I went from leaning with my guy to this being more of a dog or pass position. And when it comes to, again, we're talking Prediction Strike long-term investment, I think Dennis has some serious upside here. I mean, and you're also getting in at like a floor level buy-in, like 48 cents. He'll get a nice bump from beating Jamie Pickett this week. And then again, it's all dependent on matchmaking. But if he can continue to improve, use that anti-wrestling, stand on the feet, get a couple of decent matchups where he punches one guy out in the first round. I think there is some upside here long-term for Dennis. Maybe 2-3 fights or so, but not one that I'm super bullish on either way. I think you can argue both guys in this particular fight on Saturday.
Just a quick update on Mrs. Locke's demeanor right now after finding out that the queen just died. Quote for quote here, guys. OMG, my life is upside down right now. So there you go.
Well wishes to Mrs. Locke. She's taking it tough.
Getting back to this fight here, I largely agree with you, but man, like, I don't know if I'm as high on Dennis as you seem to be in the spot. Now,
like I said, no confidence either way. You could argue
Yeah.
both sides. I'm not massively high on either guy here.
Like I slightly backed him in the Kizria fight, but by backing him, I mean that I thought that he could survive longer than a lot of people expected him, right? If you guys remember that night, the under 1.5 was like -200, -220 for Kizriev to get him out of there quickly. And I was like, I think he could make it over the 7.5 minute mark, right? Like we've seen him deal with grapple heavy approaches from past opponents, and it's been more difficult for these guys to put him away. Like they put him away, but they put him away late. But Kizriev, he just crashes my over 1.5 ticket by 30 seconds, finishes him about 2 minutes into that second round. But we saw some decent things from Dennis in that fight, even on short notice. Now he gets a full training camp here against a guy like Jamie Pickett. Yes, he's the better striker. Yes, he has a good power in his hands. But I think that Jamie Pickett, I'd like to compare him to somebody else that we're going to be talking about later on this card in Macy Chiasson. They very much find success through the physical attributes. Like their skill level and technical skill level need work, in my opinion. But the fact that they're so, athletic or they're so big compared to the rest of their opponents, they're able to use their size effectively and use that to win their fights. And I think that's where he's going to have to lean on here against Dennis, right? Historically, he's pretty durable, right? Like he got knocked out by Jordan Wright, but that was off of him going for a desperation takedown and getting Travis Brown elbowed to smithereens until Jordan Wright eventually followed up and finished him in that fight as well. But like largely his durability has been good. The other time he got finished was Kyle Dawkins in his last fight, who just overwhelmed him with the jiu-jitsu approach and eventually got that Darce choke courtesy of the Darce Knight that night, and he got that win. But here against Dennis, like if he can evade those big strikes, if he can tie Dennis up against the cage, make it a close fight, make it a grindy fight, I think he could slowly chip away at Dennis and then just grind his way to a decision victory. That's the side that I'm leaning, but I could never come to terms with paying chalk on Jamie Pickett. He is just not that level of fighter to trust to get less than half your money back whenever you put your money down on him, right? I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like this fight from a prediction strike perspective. I don't like it from a betting perspective. Maybe the overs, if anything, I think the over 2.5 was at -140. I don't think that's a bad line here at all. But I do still lean the Jamie side. I think he'll grind this one out. I think he'll get his win. But even taking him on prediction strike here, being nearly double the price that Dennis is, you're not going to see too big of a bump in his price here. So personally, this is more of a pass fight on all sides.
I hear you. Completely agree. Not one that I'm super excited about. We'll see what happens. Should be fun to watch, though. All right. Moving things along, we've got everybody's favorite, Jailton Almeida, $2.02 here on Prediction Strike, taking on UFC newcomer Anton Turkalj. That's hard to get my tongue around. All right. So both these guys coming in from the Contender Series. Anton, brand new off the Contender Series. Jailton, you guys all know Jailton. And that's why his price is where it's at, $2.02. I actually really kind of want to look at this. Look at that. This guy came in at that $1.13 price tag, and it's just been all gravy train since then for anybody who got in on Jailton Almeida. Locke, how does he not do anything but continue to smash here? I know this is going to be another grappling fight, grappling heavy matchup. Maybe his opponent can bring that same kind of game plan. He's got more experience there. He can survive in this spot, but Jailton's kind of a freak of nature. I don't like the gigantic price tag. I've never liked the gigantic price tag. In fact, I bet against Jailton Almeida in his UFC debut, thinking he was not all that everyone expected him to be. So I kind of have that built-in bias that I think maybe there's a little bit of opportunity for Anton to come in here and surprise a bit. But at the same time, I think worst or best case scenario, it's probably tight, grindy. These guys go back and forth on the mat, and we're not sure who won at the end of the day. Value, maybe. on Anton from a prediction strike standpoint, much lower buy-in point. And if he manages to pull off the upset against Jailton, he'll get a nice boost in his number. And then, of course, has that style that we've seen be effective at this weight class. Maybe he can get some wins in the UFC and get going there. But if you're in the Jailton Truther camp, which I know most people are, this guy's headed for the belt. And buying in on him at $2 is super cheap because we see the UFC champions around that $455 watermark. And if you think this guy is headed for the top end of the division, get him now. $2.02. If he's headed for gold, that price is only going up. So where are you investing on this one, Locke?
I do share the same sentiments with you in terms of like I did try to fade Almeida in his UFC debut as well, and that did not go well at all. That did not go well at all, and obviously looking like a dumbass with egg on her face after that. But like there are holes that will be exploited of Jailton, and I think that's going to come when guys can survive that early onslaught. And Anton seems like a guy that has good enough grappling that he could hang in there early in this fight and then start to take over later, right? The only way that I'm looking to approach this fight is from a live betting perspective. After round one, if Anton survives round one, I'll likely be jumping on him at a live betting perspective there, and then try to take advantage of that bump in his price tag. But like it's tough to even make a case for either guy on a prediction strike standpoint, right? Yes, Jailton, the longevity that he has and possible championship aspirations, it could work out for him, but I do think that there are flaws in his game that will be exploited as guys are able to endure that early onslaught that he normally likes to get guys out in. And then Anton on the flip side, he could have a little bit of upside in terms of the wins that he's able to put together with his grapple heavy style, because he seems to have the cardio to be able to hold guys down and control them for over 15 minutes. That could come into play when he starts going back down to his light heavyweight class once he gets his next fight in the UFC. But this is also one of those spots where this guy just fought on the Contender Series 6 weeks ago. Didn't get the contract that night, but got this opportunity, jumped on the possibility of getting into the UFC, even if it means getting his brain smashed into the canvas by Jailton Almeida in that first round. I want nothing to do with the fight personally, like I said, other than live betting it after round one on the Anton side. Jailton, in my opinion, should be able to get him down, should be able to smash him right off the bat. The guy is so big, powerful, and strong, but like, to trust minus 800 or whatever the frick he's at right now for him to go out there and do that, 80% of the time or 90% of the time, whatever the hell it is, I think is just a little bit insane. So he should win this fight. If you do think he has championship potential, this is the perfect time to buy in on him. Like Clint said, if you think Anton has upset ability, I think his price will go up pretty well. This could be a good short-term buy low, sell high right after the fight type of spot. But even from a betting standpoint, I think live betting Anton going into round two is probably the best way to go about it.
All right. I like it. Another one where we're seeing relatively eye to eye. I like that live bet look too. Next up, Hakeem Dawodu, another Canadian fighter, $1.22, taking on Julian Juicy J Erosa at $1.20. Another line difference spot here that we can highlight for prediction strike. Julian Erosa is a big underdog here to Hakeem. However, they are 2 cents off each other when it comes to their prediction strike price tags. So definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Longevity, Hakeem. It's got to be Hakeem. Yeah. I don't like the durability of Juicy J. He's older, longer in the tooth. This is his second UFC run. He's doing great right now. I like what he's doing, but he's kind of beating bottom feeders. I don't think that's going to have a whole lot of longevity. I don't think that's going to have a whole lot of price increase going down the line. Maybe he beats Hakeem on Saturday, but beyond that, I don't see a whole lot of success for Juicy J. He's a glass cannon. I can't trust his defense whatsoever, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before we start seeing those durability issues kind of pop up again. Me and Hakeem on the other side of this thing, this guy is slick, man. His Muay Thai is so damn good defensively. He's so tight. He's so sound. I think he's got a future in the weight class. I do think eventually somebody's going to catch him and put him down. I do question his durability. I've made arguments against him getting caught, and if he faces like a real technical power puncher at some point, I think he is eventually going to get caught and go down. But I think long-term, he's going to have more success than Juicy J. I would be looking at the Hakeem side of things from prediction strike standpoint on this one. But if you do think that Juicy J is going to be getting that win, again, you've got that value here on prediction strike. He's only 2 cents cheaper. Maybe load up on him to get the win here on prediction strike and then pump and dump.
Yeah, dude, you broke that down perfectly here. I know I faded the prior two Canadians that were on this card, and I almost forgot that Hakeem was on this card, but This is the Canadian that will win, in my opinion, right? I get that he might be unbettable to some people at that minus 225 range, considering, he's never really blowing his opponents out. He's just technically outstriking them. He's not knocking these guys out. He's not getting multiple knockdowns per fight, but he's just chipping away at these guys. So I can understand the concern in terms of laying minus 225 on him. But like you said, this is where prediction strike comes in when you don't have as much of a discrepancy between the two price tags that you're getting here. With Hakeem only being 2 cents more expensive, you can see a better jump here than you're going to be seeing on betting that minus 225. This would be the stock to buy in on, and you can do the same thing that I was talking about what you could do with Jay Collier. Buy 100 stocks of Hakeem Dawodu and then sell 50 of them after you get that bump from the Julian Erosa fight, and then see where he gets matched up moving forward after that. If he's getting another striker that he can go out there and pretty much beat to the punch, hold on to the stock. But if he's going to go in there with another Movsar Evloev type of guy who can exploit that type of grappling approach, then you probably sell on him, right? So I like Hakeem here. I think he chips away at Julian Erosa. I don't think he finishes him. I think that Julian, with his striking defense being so poor, his durability could be there at times. But Hakeem seems to focus more on discipline, throwing his strikes, as effectively and technically as possible, but not with the most power on them either, right? The more you throw with power, the faster you're going to gas yourself out. And with Hakeem, he likes volume. He likes output. He likes putting those combinations on his opponents and making it look pretty while doing so. So $1.22, I think, is a great line for him here, even if you just want from a short-term side of things. So give me Hakeem, and I think he cruises pretty well here.
Yep, agreed. I like that we're on the same page there. I kind of almost talked myself into the dog shot on Juicy J. I do think, like I said, he's got that finishing upside. He could pull the win off here on Saturday. But at the end of the day, that's one where I kind of looked back and I was like, man, I just think Hakeem's probably going to piece him apart. And when Juicy J kind of overextends trying to get that finish to give himself a fighting chance, I actually think Hakeem gets a finish here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he puts Julian Erosa down on Saturday. So glad that we line up there on that one, man. Next up, Johnny Walker, $1.88. I'm kind of surprised his price tag is as high as it is right now at this point. Taking on Ion Cutelaba, $1.20. Here we go. We've got backwards lines here on Prediction Strike. Ion Cutelaba is your minus 190 favorite. Both these guys have fallen on tough times here in the UFC. Johnny made his entrance at $2.50 on Prediction Strike, but because of the skid that he's been on, he's been dropping like a rock. Man, like this is where I get a little crazy. I don't understand why Ion Cutelaba is the favorite. I straight don't. I think this is massive recency bias with Johnny Walker's last couple fights. He's been fighting guys that are higher caliber, more talented, more skilled than Ion Cutelaba, and it has not gone well for him. Now, I don't like that he's at SBG Ireland. I think that's a bad choice. From a coaching standpoint, I think they're giving him bad directions. The Thiago Santos fight is a perfect example of what not to do with this man. But he's got so much upside. Like, he got cracked by more technical strikers, Corey Anderson and my guy Jamal Hill. I don't think Ion Cutelaba is anywhere near what those guys are from a striking standpoint. He got out-wrestled by Nikita Krylov, who, in my opinion, is a better wrestler than Ion Cutelaba. We know Ion Cutelaba has gas tank issues, and he slows down the deeper the fight goes. He also makes mistakes like sticking his neck into guillotines whenever he gets tired. We've seen him get tapped by that before. And Johnny Walker reversed Nikita Krylov in the second round, got on top of him, and started pounding away for victory there. Didn't quite get the finish, obviously, but Nikita Krylov is another one of these notably durable, tough to put away type of guys. He got back on the grind late in that fight. I think this is a Johnny Walker spot. We're getting plus 170 on Johnny Walker. Nobody wants a piece of him because he's got that meme, knockout his last time out. That's the highlight we're gonna see over and over again.
Hold on here, Clint. Hold on. Do that for me one more time. Somebody needs to clip that and throw that up, especially if Johnny Walker gets knocked out again this weekend.
So, man, I think this is a spot. I'm just going to take, center stage here, apparently.
There we go. Thank you. I was like, there we go. Which layout? There we go. Frick.
I think, yeah, man, it's one of those spots for me where I think that Johnny Walker is being slept on because of the last couple of fights. I think Ion Cutelaba is untrustworthy. I especially don't want anything to do with Ion Cutelaba long-term when it comes to Prediction Strike because the man finds a way to lose. And if we're setting the bar at, but bro, he looked so good against Devin Clark last fight. Lock, Devin Clark is my line for the 205-pound division. If you lose to Devin Clark, you are garbage. You deserve to be cut. You're not in the organization anymore, as far as I am concerned. If you beat Devin Clark, then okay, you can stick around. So Ion getting a win over Devin Clark is not overly surprising to me, if we're being honest. But I was honestly a little worried he might lose that fight, if that tells you what I think of the guy at this point. I don't understand why Ion is such a big favorite, and I think we've got a sneaky spot here on Johnny Walker. The problem for me from a prediction strike standpoint is he's the more expensive of the two. He does have chin concerns, and he's a fun, entertaining guy that's going to leave himself open to getting beaten by the higher level fighters. I don't want to invest in Johnny Walker from a prediction strike standpoint. I do think he wins potentially on Saturday, but with his opponent being valued at $1.20, even if he does get that win, I don't expect his value to go up for prediction strikes. So from a prediction strike standpoint, this is a pass for me. I don't want to invest in either of these guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same belief myself. In regards to this matchup and the line being too wide, man. Like I think a lot of this is predicated on Ion Cutelaba finding that chin of Johnny Walker and putting him up. That's what people are scared of. That's why people are willing to back Cutelaba at such a chalk price. But we see it time and time again. Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. Johnny Walker's big. He's huge, and it's all these freaking gifts that people can make off of Clint on this episode are just amazing. I love it. But yeah, no, even if he looks to go out there and try to do the Devin Clark thing and try to take him down, we saw even in the Ryan Spann fight, he got Ryan Spann down 3 times in less than 2.5 minutes. But the reason he got him down 3 times is because Ryan Spann got up 4, right? Like, that's the thing. It's hard for Ion Cutelaba to hold down these big guys that are going to struggle, that will be able to get to their feet pretty quickly and are much bigger, right? Johnny Walker is a big dude. It's going to be very hard for Ion Cutelaba to hold him down. And then I think once it gets into the striking, the dynamic speed and the variety of strikes coming from the Johnny Walker side of things could give Ion Cutelaba some problems. So I understand the love for Johnny Walker, right? And you're right. I think the better way to approach this fight would be from a betting perspective. Take the money line on Johnny Walker at plus 170 rather than the $1.88 that you're going to get him on prediction strike in this spot, right? If you think Cutelaba can go out there and actually hold him down and maybe even knock him out, taking him on prediction strike is much better than taking him as money line at minus 200. So it's good that you have 2 outlets that you could try to make money off of this fight. And I think it's kind of opposite based on who the favorite is and who the underdog is on both of these websites. So prediction strike, I'd say lean Cutelaba if you think he can get the knockout. But from a betting perspective, I think Johnny Walker would likely be the side. Personally, I just can't get to the window to bet Johnny Walker because I'm just so goddamn scared of that fragility. And we know Ion Cutelaba can hit like a goddamn Mack truck when he's able to get that big power off. And hey, looks like the dog is barking.
Dog's barking.
So maybe it's Johnny Walker that actually ends up coming through in this spot. But yeah, I'm going to go Cutelaba. I think he does eventually clip him here. But from a money line perspective, I think Johnny Walker is the side. Prediction strikes perspective, Ion Cutelaba is definitely the side. And before we move on to the next spot here, Clint, big news dropping just now. Olajuwon Dream letting us know Thiago Santos to sign with the PFL. Everybody going to be on that Thiago Santos train, but I think he might have a tough time trying to get that $1 million prize, just like I think Shane Burgos is going to struggle to do so as well. But big news there. Shout out to Olajuwon Dream. And also Olajuwon Dream saying that it was Alfie doing that bark. That was actually Clint's dog, not my dog.
That was Zelda.
That was Zelda. Alfred is in the other room. He's chilling.
That's hilarious. No, man, good luck. Good luck, Thiago, in the PFL. I mean, it's a smaller pool of fighters. Maybe he'll have some more success there. Maybe we'll see some, classic Thiago Santos running through here. But it'll be, I don't know. It's tough. The PFL at the heavier weight classes is pretty thin at this point. So he might have some success over there, actually.
You know what? I was getting the heavyweight and light heavyweight divisions mixed up. So I think it might be right. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Irene Aldana, $4.26. Holy crap. This girl is expensive. Next up, Macy Chiasson, $2.21. This is a big battle between a lot of people online here this week, man. We have seen some serious line movement here. Some people buying in on Macy Chiasson with her win coming over Norma Dumont. You and I talked about this a little bit before the live stream. She's got the exact style that has always given Irene Aldana problems. Like her whole career, the fighters that she loses to bring the Macy Chiasson style. And I can't invest in her at $4. I mean, she's already championship level price tag. Like, what's she gonna do? Even if she does end up bumping up to what, 480, you're getting a 60-cent price increase. This is where we have the opposite problem from the last couple of fights. I'd rather bag her money line. You know, if you think she's going to win on Saturday, I would much rather pile on and get paid and get my money and run away after she gets her hand raised on Saturday, because even if she does increase in value from here, I just don't know how much higher it's going to go from this point. So for me, if there's a prediction strike side, it's a Macy Chiasson bet. From a money line perspective, betting wise, prediction strike stand, or just a fight prediction standpoint, I think I like the favorite in Irene Aldana here. I'm not blind to the fact that Macy has a very clear path to victory in this fight, but we've seen at 135, she struggles. That cut is rough for her. Her gas tends to kind of run out a little bit, and I don't know that she's on the level of a Rocky Pennington or a Holly Holm to be able to implement that exact game plan for 15 straight minutes against somebody who's going to implement a much better defense than her last opponent did.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the Irene Aldana side this weekend. And honestly, I don't know where you've been seeing the Macy Chiasson love, but all I've been seeing is Irene Aldana love myself. And I tend to agree with that. I know what you're talking about in terms of the path to victory that Macy has here, right? Go for takedowns. But I think that might be a little bit over-exaggerated because of the Holly Holm fight. Just looking at the takedown numbers here, if you exclude the Holly Holm fight, opponents have only been able to complete 2 of 31 takedown attempts on Irene Aldana. If you include that fight with Holly Holm, it goes to 7 on 45 attempts. So yes, some people have gotten her down, but like they don't control her for a long period of time. And with Holly Holm, I know she's known mainly as a striker, but she's a very physical individual, right? She's very strong. You see her lifting all the weights. You see her kind of taking opponents to the ground when she needs to, and that's what she focused on the Irene Aldana fight. She has a method to her process compared to Macy Chiasson, who just relies on her physicality and her ability to just get her paws on her opponents and drag them to the ground. It's going to work on a smaller Shanna Young, right? It's going to work on some of these other fighters that she's been able to do it to. But I think with the things that I see from Irene Aldana, you know, we can even look at the Yana Kunitskaya fight. Whenever Yana closes distance and tries to get her clinch going and try to drag her to the ground, you see Irene immediately digging for underhooks, immediately pivoting off the cage, immediately getting back into open space. And I think that's what can be done here against Macy Chiasson. Like if you watch the body shots are amazing as well too. Exactly. If you watch Macy Chiasson against Norma Dumont, there's so many opportunities for Norma Dumont to dig an underhook and get out of those positions, but she's like,
she just does nothing.
Exactly. She did nothing in that fight. Whereas Irene is immediately on those underhooks. She's digging her way out of those bad positions and getting back out into space. And then on the feet, let's be honest, Clint, Irene is miles ahead of Macy Chiasson in terms of the technical striking. And I think that's actually going to open up a possible finishing opportunity for Irene Aldana in this spot as well. I agree with you, though. $4 and whatever she's at right now, a little bit too high, right? I think that's a little bit too steep at this price for the prediction strike side of things. I would rather just take her, whatever she's at, minus 175 is what I got at Irene Aldana at. I'd rather take that money line and just invest on that side of things. But if you think Macy Chiasson has a shot here, taking the $2.21, you're going to see a very solid return on that number should she be able to pick up the victory here against Irene Aldana. So if you have any love for Chiasson, throw a couple of stocks on her on prediction strike. But I really think that this is going to be an Aldana fight where she just goes out there, stuffs the takedowns, nullifies the clinch, and then just torches her on the feet, eventually knocking her out in that second or third round. Give me all of the Mexicana here.
Did you know that looking back at Macy Chiasson's career, she has 4 losses, 2 by finish and 2 by decision? The 2 by finish both happened in the second round specifically. So just something interesting to point out. Round down by KO in round 2 is 9-1. So
whoa. Even her KO straight up at plus 450 is not bad at all.
Not bad. Definite agreement here from me. All right, man. Moving right along. We're getting to the good stuff here. Everybody smash that like button for us. If you haven't already, check out Prediction Strike. Kevin Holland, $2.17. See, this is where I just go bonkers here. Why is Irene Aldana $4 when Kevin freaking Holland is $2.17? Like,
I will
I
say
know
this from what I understand, when they IPO'd all these fighters, it was based on their ranking, and I think Irene Aldana was ranked at a certain spot, and that's why she was so high. And then as she's been able to pick up victories, we see her line go a little bit higher and higher.
that makes some sense here to me, but it's like, just even from like a popularity
Yeah,
standpoint, you'd
you're
think
right.
Holland was a higher number. You just would think
For
he'd be
sure.
higher up there. Daniel Rodriguez, another dog bark.
Is D-Rod live? Is that what
D-Rod.
Zelda's saying?
He's $1.53 here on Prediction Strike. And honestly, man, this is a fight that I've had a little bit of difficulty with. Like, my gut, my soul says Kevin Holland is the side here. I think he's more physically gifted, and down at this weight class. Now, it is a catch weight. It's 180 catch weight. But down at the lower weight class at 170, I think he's just too big. He's too long. He's too physical. He hits hard. He's fast. Like, he's a monster at 170 pounds. Daniel Rodriguez is a guy that I've struggled with. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get on the train. I know he's a good fighter. I know he's got a good, well-rounded skill set, but he also seems, I don't want to say low IQ, but I mean, he's a Diaz bro. Like, he wants to get into a brawl. He wants to trade. He wants to, go tit for tat on the strikes. Like, he beats some guys, and I've been wrong on him several times. He's got a solid record with only 2 losses on it, so I should have more respect for him than I guess I do. And that's kind of coming to bite me right now. Is I can see that he's got a wrestling advantage like nearly everybody does over Kevin Holland. If D-Rod decides to come out and wrestle, I think he could make this fight very interesting and possibly pull off the upset. But I also think, again, at 170 at this lower weight class, Kevin Holland is going to be physically strong enough to maybe handle some of these guys that try to wrestle him. Whereas at 185, he was way too small, and the big guys that knew how to wrestle had no issues nullifying him and holding him down. So I kind of lean Kevin Holland here, and especially from Prediction Strike, I think he's got the much brighter future, the much higher ceiling. If he gets by D-Rod, we're looking at a guy that's headed for the top 10, a good personality. If he keeps evolving his skill set, maybe the top 5. I think Kevin Holland is the investable side here from Prediction Strike.
Yeah, I do agree with you on this one. I was in the same boat, right? Pre-tape, I was thinking D-Rod might be a live underdog in the spot to go out there and pull off that upset. But like, I have been impressed with Kevin Holland over his last couple of fights in terms of stopping takedowns and keeping fights upright and implementing his striking advantage that he normally has in those spots, right? Looking back at the guys that were able to take down Kevin Holland and hold him down, are big guys with credentialed wrestling backgrounds, specifically Derek Brunson, who had a credentialed wrestling background and a good wrestling base, and even Marvin Vettori, right? The middleweight division doesn't really have a crazy wrestling style. Jeez, I don't know why. Sorry, I don't know why Topology always seems to play this random ad while I'm breaking fights down. It just automatically starts an ad video. But anyway, that threw me off a little bit here. But yeah, Derek Brunson, big, heavy grappler. Marvin Vettori, big, heavy grappler. Those are the guys that are able to hold Kevin Holland down time and time again. Daniel Rodriguez, from the tape that I saw of him, yes, he has some decent groundwork, but I'm not sold on his wrestling. Like, I don't think it's of the level that's going to give Kevin Holland issues, because Kevin has really focused on get-ups, takedown defense, and we see it in those last 2 fights, specifically the Alex Oliveira fight and even the fight against Tim Means. He does a very good job in keeping that fight upright, and then from there, he's able to touch these guys up and beat them to the punch. Daniel Rodriguez is a solid striker, in my opinion, too, right? Southpaw style, uses a variety of strikes, stays very active, but I think the speed is going to be the difference maker here. I think that's where Kevin Holland will be able to beat him to the punch, touch him up. I don't know if he'll be able to knock him out. I think it's on the table that he could finish D-Rod in this spot, but he could also just kind of play it safe on the outside and just touch him up and win a decision in this spot. $2.17. It might be a good long-term play, but honestly, I always cringe at the spot of or the thought of Kevin Holland being a minus 200 favorite. I think he has holes in his game that people can exploit. I just don't know if D-Rod is the guy that's going to be able to do this here. So I like Kevin Holland. I think he wins this fight. I'm not paying minus 200 on him. Maybe I'll buy a little bit of stock on him in this fight and then sell right after the fight goes off and he gets the dub. But from a long-term perspective, it's a matchup by matchup basis for Kevin Holland for me. But he should win this fight this weekend.
I agree. All right. Here we go. Jing the Leech. Jingliang. $2.19 taking on my guy, Tony freaking Ferguson, $2.68. Poor Tony. Poor Tony.
Ugh.
Big fall from the $3.25 mark that he opened up at here on Prediction Strike. And man, this is a fight that I'm having such a hard time with, if I'm being completely honest. I handicapped Tony Ferguson as should have been favored over Michael Chandler. He looked incredible in round one, died immediately in round two. So there is still a part of my soul that looks back at this and it goes, is the Leech technically better than the guys that Tony Ferguson is losing to? I don't know that he is. And it kind of makes me want to jump on the Tony Ferguson train one last time. But you know what, Locke? Every time I've done that this year, these guys have just died on national television in the cage in front of me, and it hasn't gone well. So I'm having a hard time going back to that well here this weekend. From a long-term standpoint, no Tony Ferguson. Don't give me any Tony Ferguson, because even at 170 pounds, if he made this move 3 years ago, sure, like maybe he can compete. He's a big lightweight. Maybe he can move up and transform his body and compete with the best guys at 170. But you know what's always given him trouble? Wrestlers. And you know what 170 is full of? Wrestlers. Tony Ferguson is going to get put on his back so quickly against anybody in the top 15 at 170. I don't think he's got much long-term investment value here. The Leech on the other side of things, he's young. He's punching people's lights out. He might be a little bit more limited. We know China's been struggling in the UFC at this point, but of the two, I think he's probably got more long-term value, and especially with the price differential, this guy is a big favorite coming into Saturday. His opponent has more dollar value on Prediction Strike than he does. I think this is a Leech side. If you're looking Prediction Strike, don't lay the money line out there. You can get a better value right here on Prediction Strike by investing in him as the cheaper fighter. If he gets the win via finish, that number is going to jump over here on this side of things.
Yeah, I did my my co-main event breakdown that I normally do for the Action Network earlier today, and I was having such a difficult time in terms of settling on what my pick should be, right? I'm like, okay, I know the line is a little bit too wide. Pretty much everything that you said, I believe, is true. So the line is too wide from a money line perspective. Even a totals perspective, I'm scratching my head here because like everybody expects Tony Ferguson to die right off the jump, but like we're overlooking the fact that that was the first time his lights have ever been shut off by Michael Chandler in his last fight. The only other time he's lost by KO or TKO in the past was the Justin Gaethje fight, where his chin would refuse to go out. And even when he got TKO'd, he was standing and just taking the punishment. Mm-hmm. His unorthodox style, his unorthodox movement, and even striking makes it very difficult for guys to land big strikes on him to really, find that big knockout blow. Jingliang, he's not like this combination striker. He wings big shots and looks to get knock your head into the third row. But can he time it perfectly here for the movement that he's going to be getting from Tony Ferguson? I don't know. And I can't back him at minus 300 thinking he's going to be able to do that. So, like, in terms of percentages, because that's what, like, it comes down to at the end of the day, right? Like, what percentage are you giving Jingliang to win this fight? To me, I put it down to about 60%. I think he wins this fight 60% of the time. And on the flip side, obviously, that means 40% for Tony Ferguson, which would put him at plus 150. Right now, he's sitting around plus 255. So that would mean that there is value on the Tony Ferguson side if you think my percentages are correct. So for my co-main event breakdown that I did on the Action Network, I said take a small sprinkle on Tony Ferguson at plus 255. He could absolutely be live in this fight with his output, his unorthodox movement, and even his grappling if he looks to take it there, because his jiu-jitsu is probably the kryptonite of Jingliang, who has been tapped out twice inside the UFC to this point, albeit one of them to the guy in the co-main event in Khamzat Chimaev, but he did manage to get caught in a rear naked choke by Keita Nakamura several years ago. But jiu-jitsu for Tony Ferguson is always on the table. So he doesn't have to worry about a grapple-heavy approach like he did against Charles Oliveira and Benio Dariush. He didn't have to worry about being technically outstruck by a guy like Justin Gaethje. And like you said about the Michael Chandler fight, he was winning that fight until that front kick from hell came out of nowhere and absolutely butchered him and took him out, right? Crazy finish there from Michael Chandler. But we put too much stock, in my opinion, in standing knockouts. And that's why I think this spot on Jingliang this weekend is a trap. I really think it's a trap for a lot of people. The reason I can't get to the betting window for Tony Ferguson is, one, it's been 4 months since he got flatlined. That's a red flag to me. But that doesn't automatically make me believe that Jingliang is going to be the guy to put him out again. And two, He's 38 years old, right? He's gonna start slowing down. That's a little bit too much of a red flag for me to
It's not
actually.
getting better from here.
Exactly. Like if I were to say anything about this fight, just a small stab on Tony Ferguson at plus 255, maybe even take a shot on his submission prop, which I think is closer to that plus 600 range, because I think that could have some value in this spot. But
I'm seeing 8-1 on Tony Ferguson by sub, 6-1 on Tony Ferguson by decision.
8-1 on sub is not a bad look, considering that Lee has shown some deficiencies in his grappling, and we know Ferguson is going to be, chopping him up, looking to get that Darce going, looking to choke him out at some point in this spot. But man, it doesn't look good. This fight does happen on short notice. That's why Tony Ferguson did move up a weight class in this fight, so it's more circumstantial than anything. So I wouldn't read into that too much. Maybe that helps his durability out, right? Maybe the lack of weight cut for him here will allow him to be more durable in this spot. So that's what scares me off the Li Jingliang side, but not to mention the other red flags that I mentioned for the Tony Ferguson side. This fight is a complete pass for me on the prediction strike and betting side of things. But if you're putting a gun to my head, a little bit of a sprinkle on Ferguson money line. And Li Jingliang, sorry, what's the price on Tony Ferguson again? If you don't mind jumping over to his page.
Yeah, the price on Tony is looking like 258.
So, yeah, 268. So you might as well invest a little bit on Li Jingliang rather than taking the minus 300 that you're getting on the money line if you do think he goes out there and knocks out Tony Ferguson. So Ferguson, small sprinkle money line, but prediction strike side of things, gotta believe Ferguson is on the decline. So even with the win this weekend, how long can you truly hold on to his stock and think that he's going to rise up even more than that $2.68? So Leach is probably the prediction strike side, but Ferguson is the money line side.
Yep. And I always got to bust the tinfoil hat out, right, Locke? So if you're looking at getting a little frisky here on this one, Tony Ferguson, round 3 or decision is plus 450, which I don't mind that. It gives you the chance of the late finish there. And then fight to be won by split or majority decision is 7-1. So if you think Tony Ferguson is going to get in this fight, make it dirty, make it a brawl, still be alive, but maybe lose a split to the Leech, 7-1 for the fight just to go to a split decision. That's the kind of shit that I like sprinkling.
I like it.
Main event time, folks. Khamzat Chimaev, your $5 favorite here on Prediction Strike. Surprise, surprise. The man who is the future king is already sitting at a $5 price tag. You missed your window to invest, and Nate Diaz is $2.02 here on Prediction Strike. These are spots where, you know what, Locke, this entire week, it's been real dull because we're supposed to build up to the main event, right? Like all week, we're supposed to build our way up to the main event and have an awesome breakdown to give. This week sucks. Like nobody's making a case for Nate Diaz. He's been on record saying he doesn't like this fight. He wants out of his contract. He doesn't want anything to do with this. That doesn't give you much confidence. We've seen his brother literally quit on his way to a fight, and he posted a picture online of him being all shredded up before the Robbie Lawler fight. They moved the fight up a weight class, and he came in with a spare tire around his waist. Like, the Diaz bros are not above just being like, fuck it, I'm out. And I'm getting those vibes from him this week. Now, I don't think he's actually going to do the thing where he just straight up quits or walks out of the cage, although it would be hilarious if he did. I do think he's going to go there and fight because he's a fighter. That's what he does. These guys are more than willing to get in there and trade, and he wants Khamzat to go in there and beat him. But I just don't see a path to victory for Nate. I really don't. I know we've got questions about Khamzat's gas tank. I know he's only gone 15 minutes with Gilbert Burns and he slowed down, but the pacing of that fight was ferocious. Nate has been a guy who struggled with wrestlers his entire career. He doesn't pose much problems when it comes to taking him down. Yes, he's got jiu-jitsu off his back, but these high-level Dagestani wrestlers, unless your name is Magomed, you're not going to get triangled by anybody like Paul Craig. So I know he's your guy. Sorry, got to dig the knife in just a little bit for that.
Don't you?
So I don't think Nate's going to, triangle Khamzat or anything like that. I think this is Khamzat round 1, round 2 TKO personally. I don't think it's going to last long. I think it'll be over relatively quickly. Nate doesn't have any incentive to stay in this fight besides just his own personal machismo. And I do think the referee will probably be on a quick trigger to step in because we have seen what happens when Khamzat gets on top of people. I don't think he's going to let Nate take a whole lot of punishment if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, I think it's Khamzat. I think it's Khamzat early. I don't mind the round 1. I don't mind the round 2 sprinkles there. The KO prop is minus 150. I think that makes some sense because Diaz these guys don't like to be submitted. That's kind of their big thing, is their jiu-jitsu guys. So if he's going to go out, I think he would rather get knocked out than get tapped out, because I think he'll refuse to tap. So yeah, man, I like Hamzat like everybody else, but there's no way I'm buying in on him at $5, because we haven't seen many people go above that $5 mark in Prediction Strike. So to me, there's just nowhere to go. I think he's at his ceiling potentially already. And if he does go up to 525, 550, you're just not getting a whole lot of return for your value. Hard to bet the money line on this as well. So it's hard to bet Hamzat this week at all, but I don't like it from Prediction Strike. And Diaz is not going to be in the UFC after this point, I don't think. So there's no point in investing in him from a Prediction Strike standpoint either.
The only reason to invest on him on Prediction Strike is if you think he wins this weekend, right? Like if he does win, you get your boost on your stock, you sell right after that, because he's likely not going to re-sign with the UFC. But even he doesn't believe he's going to win, essentially, right? I'm sure you saw that media day interview yesterday. He was like, "Okay, whatever, just beat me." Like it seems like he truly does not give a fuck, which is hilarious here. So the spot that I looked to take advantage of was actually the under 1.5. I got plus 120 on it because I think that Hamzat is going to go back to his early smashing days like he did when he first burst onto the UFC scene. Nate Diaz's takedown defense is god awful. Since 2007, every opponent that he's faced, or every opponent that has attempted to take him down, has taken him down, except Conor McGregor and Takanori Gomi, who went a combined 0 of 3 on takedowns against Nate Diaz. But we know Hamzat Chimaev is a completely different, beast when it comes to the wrestling side of things. If he wants to get you down, he's going to get you down. That's what he's going to do here against Nate Diaz, and I think he's going to maul him right off the bat. I get Nate Diaz is durable. I get that he's tough, but people are overlooking the fact that his mentality going into this fight is to get out of the UFC. And if that means taking as little damage as possible to Hamzat Chimaev and just getting out of this fight as soon as possible, that's where he's going to end up doing. A win over Hamzat and then leaving the UFC does nothing for Nate. It doesn't ride or drive his stock value up by any means. And by stock, I mean his popularity or anything, because, I bet you the mainstream of the main people that actually know Nate Diaz probably don't know Hamzat Chimaev. I'm going to be honest about that. I think that Nate, all the love that he got from the Conor fight, and if people are still holding on to him to this point, they probably have no idea who Hamzat is.
Do you think there are still people out there like that?
I think so. I really think so. I do.
What kind of rock are people living under?
Honestly, like I don't. I still think Hamzat needs a little bit more pushing personally, but yeah, a win for him is going to do nothing for him here. So I don't even think that incentive is on the table for him. So yeah, I think he gets smashed early. I think he gets smashed quickly. And you're right. There's not much, to be made from Hamzat from a Prediction Strike standpoint in this spot. His price might go up by 20 or 30 cents, but that's really about it. I'd be surprised if it's even that much. But yeah, the best way to attack this, Hamzat early props or even the under 1.5. Fight doesn't start round 2 even, I think is on the table here, as Hamzat will likely smash him right off the jump. So Hamzat all the way, but violence even more.
I like it. Honestly, I think the under 2.5 is a half decent spot as far as a bet goes if you're looking for something on the main event this week. Folks, that is it. That's our full Prediction Strike breakdown. Make sure you deposit. Use code LOCK to get a free fighter stonk. While you're at it, get investing. There's definitely some opportunities here to make some money where the sports betting might fall a little short. Prediction Strike will fill that niche in there for you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Hit the like button, regardless of whether or not you hate my face. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Locke, any closing thoughts?
Just to quickly add on top of the promotion that Prediction Strike is running, I believe for this week, since the NFL is kicking off this week, for every $25 that you deposit onto their website, you would get a free stock. Whether it's a fighter, whether it's a player, Prediction Strike is doing a special this week because of the NFL kicking off. So whether you're a longtime customer already, or if you're just signing up right off the jump, if you're just signing up, use the promo code LOCK. But then if you are a longtime user as well, just invest more into that account that you have in your capital, and you'll be able to get some more free stocks as well. All of that good stuff is in the description below. So make sure you guys go check that out.
Good times. As always, Locke and I legitimately hope you guys go out there and find a way to make some money this weekend. Have a wonderful event. We've got a big pay-per-view, UFC 280, coming right around the corner. We will be back doing Prediction Strike Stonks for the big pay-per-view event. And of course, we'll have our normal Prediction Strike segment on the Deadlock podcast coming to you bi-weekly. So we'll be back next Wednesday for the regular Deadlock episode. Next up, We appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with us today. Good luck, Deadlock Army. Dismissed.